So, Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton, what does the U.S. need to do to get women back to work?
Avis, the starters, targeting the long-term unemployed in the jobs bill America is insisting Congress passes after recess would be a good start.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's what the U.S. needs to give themselves the right skill to work.
I think we have to be very careful about what the fiscal, and especially through the Republican, right? Because women are being hurt through public sector jobs that are being cut. And so it's counterproductive to say we care about women having jobs and yet we're slashing.
In the corner, the government out of the way, allow individuals and allow business, and let's cut some of the red tape, create jobs that will be around for the long term.
When the tax, the tax,
temporary cuts. I think we need real serious long-term programs that are in. So because there's so much
cuts for the wealthy forever, yeah.
But when you look at what businesses have right now, they're sitting on nearly, and they're not hiring people.
Because they're
private sector, particularly as women get public sector jobs, doesn't the government have some responsibility
to shrink the size? In the private sector, I think the federal government is doing a lot of things that the private sector could be doing more efficiently, and for they don't. What will the bill look like? What will the actual implications of Dodd-Frank look like? I think there's just no one knows what the business environment is going to be.
Well, made the best argument then for some government, if you care anything about women, if they're sitting on, if nobody else is helping them, if unemployment is stuck, then the only engine that typically in a democracy steps up to the plate is indeed the government. All the tax cuts in the world, we have. So if you stop talking from the Republican Party, we've heard that ever since they took power. And what we have now is a jobs crisis for women. We've got to target women. We've got every economist, any economist, and the interesting way is the bipartisan way that this is coming in. The Fed says you've got to spend money in term for economic growth. So those talking points died when we went on recess.
Yeah, but let's not overlook. I serve on the Board of Manpower, which is a temporary permanent staffing. They place over 4 million. Their big issue is talentism. In fact, they've coined the phrase talentism, which is replacing capitalism, because they don't have the individuals with the right skill to fill the kinds of jobs that we need. So we need to do a tremendous educational effort, an outreach effort, to let the workers know where the opportunities lie. I think there's a certain responsibility we need to have to make sure that healthcare is a huge market right now. We need to get people trained in those healthcare
I think
jobs.
that's very true, but I want to come back to what Eleanor said and what I said in the beginning. And it is inconsistent to be doing nothing but slashing a budget, not increasing your revenue that is coming in, keeping the tax credits for the wealthy as permanent. I was talking to someone yesterday who's with the Rural Letters Carriers Association, and he was telling me in the state of Wyoming alone, there's proposals now that's going to come to Capitol Hill, it's in front of the Senate, and it's for slashing in just Wyoming 100 post offices. Now think of the economic impact on a state like Wyoming of 100 post offices, workers, government sector jobs, which women typically are in, and then sit back and go, but we have to retrain, but let the private sector come in. These have like domino economic effects throughout our entire society.
No doubt about it.
And isn't training itself an investment? I mean, I'm wondering, where is that money going to come from if at every turn that we take, we're saying, oh, we can't afford to spend a dime. Yes, we do need to retrain. We do need to make sure the public sector, I believe, is vibrant. But all that takes investment. Where's the sacrifice?
$1 a year. I mean, we need to then redirect our focus to the growth sectors of our economy. You know, the whole environmental, there are a lot of healthcare, there are information technology. We can't just keep superficially maintaining jobs that are obsolete.
Well, Carrie, you have a good point about retraining. We know that women are crowded in these women-owned occupations. By the way, training themselves now much more broadly than ever before. We ought to give them a lot of credit. But this is the question for the country at the moment. The question for the country at the moment is, what are you going to do about millions of people who are unemployed now? All that you may be saying about things to do in the long term may entirely be correct. But we've got misery looking us in the face, and we have an obligation when you have this many people across the board, yes, of all genders, but now we see disproportionately. The reason that's important is that for 30 years, the standard of living for the American people has gone up is because women have been in the workforce.
Yes.
Now, if they're out, you have no chance of getting back to even.
I'm really uncomfortable with that. The government being obligated to use their money to train people. I think the people know. I think the market will sort this out. You know, people go to college because they expect to have a job when they. And you know now, if you go into, there are not manufacturing jobs. So if you plan a career trying to be in the manufacturing sector, that's not going to work out for you. And I don't necessarily think that's the government's obligation then to turn around and change you. You do know that where the growth industries are, is it in environment, is it in energy, is it in education, is it in healthcare?
Well, what do you think the president's prescription is going to be? Any prognosis here?
Spending.
Well, I think spending. And if you ask the American people where they are, they say 3-to-1 spending over deficit. Why? Because they are hurting. And because he was so accommodating to you people who wanted to do nothing but cut taxes, you're worse.
I want to just say really briefly to address this issue, and it kind of comes under what you were saying. You know, I just recently came back from a bipartisan trip to Germany. One of the reasons this trip went there was to talk to the leaders of Germany about what are you doing right. Okay, Germany has more debt than we do, you know, in proportion to what they take in revenue. They're not worried about it. They've got more growth than we do. What else they have? They have the government working with the private sector on retraining people or steering people into jobs that the private sector needs. And they work hand in hand, so you're not out there alone. So I really do think government has a role. I mean, if not helping your people go in a direction towards productivity and growth for this country, then what role should government have?
Why isn't industry training people? I mean, if they need people, why aren't they helping to train the very people
there are government programs right now. If there's already a trade adjustment assistance program that's training people, why would I as a business start a program like that? If we close that program down, sure I would.
But businesses do train people.
They do train
but
people.
unfortunately, they're not at the scale that we need to get this economy moving. So unfortunately, we have to move on now. We can go on really forever on this one. Now we turn to some